presented by Memphis Shades, the clear choice for custom windshields and fairings for your motorcycle. And Wild Ass Seats, stay in the saddle longer and in total comfort no matter your butt or budget.
Hopefully you guys are all having warm thoughts of being deep in Uranus.
Oh yeah. That's been playing out for a couple of weeks here now.
Oh my gosh, that poor Uranus is going to be worn out by the time the meetup.
Well, we'll see how many bikers we can fit in Uranus. It's going to be interesting.
That's prison talk.
That's what I've been
told. That's what. Never mind. I'm not even going to go there.
No, right. please.
No,
go ahead.
No. I might be crossing the line.
I live about 100 miles from the Canadian border, so I live in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So the only thing that we can claim to fame here is that we have our college here in town.
Nothing.
Yeah. Our college here in town has the most college hockey players right now on the Stanley Cup of any college in the United States.
Right on.
Yeah, we have this small like 60,000 person town, and we have a law school, a medical school, and $120,000 or $120 million hockey arena for our hockey team.
Wow.
That was built by one single donor that went to our college.
Wow. All those hockey players, you should have a dental school too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend. If you guys ever know the fable of Santa Claus from the Bonneville Salt Flats, Tom is Santa Claus's real name, and he's a dairy farmer from Wisconsin. He fielded for years and years this thing called the Buell Brothers and the Buell Sisters, where they would bring people out to Bonneville, and in their own effort of fielding Bonneville bikes, they also provide this thing called the Experience Bike. And anybody that wanted to try to take a run at Bonneville, they would get on their Buell and take a ride. You had to bring your own leathers and all your safety gear, but they help you get that experience. Well, Tom's other big passion is the Frozen Four. So anytime that the Frozen Four would end up in Pittsburgh, he would get all the tickets and he'd come to town for, a couple days, and we'd take in games. And that's like some of the best hockey I've ever seen are college hockey playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the real deal. They are, and up here, we get the Jersey Chasers too, because now there's so many blue chip athletes on our team that, the majority of them, I would say that I'm trying to think right now. I think we have 17 players that have signed pro contracts already before they even start playing college hockey. So it's a little bit of a weird phenomenon too, because then they get away with whatever they want to in town. So
Varsity Blues,
the local, it's for real. Like the local bar will close at like midnight on Saturday, and then all the hockey players will go in there, and you guys all know that half these guys are 18 and 19 years old, right? So yeah,
I remember I was bouncing a titty bar. Can I say titty bar here?
No problem with that.
I was head of security at the titty bar whenever I started Cycle Source. That's where it came out of. I ran my little aftermarket shop in the daytime. Then I would drive out by the airport to the biggest club in Pittsburgh. And we always hosted all the teams that came in from out of town. They always spent a night with us, and we did our damnedest to get them intoxicated beyond the point of being able to play the next day. Anytime anything special would happen with any of the teams, like I can remember when the Pittsburgh Penguins signed Darius Kasparaitis, and at the time Lemieux was still really involved and Yager was there, and they came in, and it was, they were ushering in Kasparaitis. And he comes to the door in his little suit, and he's like 4 feet tall, comes to the door ahead of everybody, and he says, "We're Penguins." And I stopped him on his chest as he went to walk by, and I let, Lemieux and all the guys, I knew all of them. And I said, "Listen," I said, "they're Penguins. You just got here." I said, "Let's see how it goes."
No ramp dance for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's big dick energy right there.
Yeah. Dude, so many stories from there though. Like, and the motorcycle and thing crosses over a lot at the strip club. But I can remember one night I had to keep Randy Macho Man Savage from beating the dog shit out of a guy for pinching his ass. One of my takeaways there is a big night. Big night.
You have to do it.
Well, because he's constantly in character, right? He never comes out of character. That is.
Oh no, yeah.
That was who he was, right? So he's like, "Oh, you think that's funny, fat boy punching another man's ass? I'm gonna fuck you up."
I don't know, man. Should I beat his ass? Or?
The whole time I'm like, no, Mr. Savage, please, let's get this under control.
Have a Slim Jim. Calm down.
You know your night's going to be interesting when you have to refer to somebody as Mr. Savage.
You're not kidding, man. At a titty bar.
Yeah, at a titty bar. This is going one of two ways.
This is not going good.
Dick, what was his name? The worst one. He was a football player.
Oh, I wonder if I can even say that publicly. But it was true. It was true.
It was true.
Mike Ditka was the most lecherous old bastard I ever had to do. He's from Pittsburgh, right? And like we had so much respect for him because other than me, I was 330 pounds and I was the smallest guy on the staff by 100 pounds. They were all ex-football players and everyone had mad respect for him. So we treated him like kids' gloves, but he was forever doing the most dastardly shit to the dancers. And almost every time he ever visited with us, we had to throw him out by the end of the night, and it was a very polite, like, hey coach, looks like we're coming to the end of the night here. So good seeing you again,
Now get the fuck out.
Jesus.
Oh man. Everybody, welcome back to the show. We got another special guest episode. We have Chris and Heather Callen from Cycle Source Magazine. You guys, thank you for joining Five Dirty Bikers podcast this week.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited to be here, man.
So how's Pennsylvania?
It sucks. No.
Here comes the fan
here.
mail.
Here it comes.
I am not from here. I am a transplant because of him, so it will forever just suck.
Well, where are you from originally, Heather?
Go ahead.
I'm originally from outside of Boston.
Okay.
So we're like 2 minutes from Heinz Field where we're at,
Really?
like in the country.
Nice.
But if you don't
we could be at
root,
Heinz Field in like 25 minutes.
if you don't root for the Steelers where we live, they literally will come to our house and move our shit out. It's like, you just don't listen,
They got their ass whooped last night.
No, dude. So Heather is packing all her stuff to move here with me, and we're going through, what she's bringing, what she's not, and we get to the absolute drawer full of Patriot stuff, and I'm like, listen,
You got to burn that.
Hell no, that ain't happening.
you can bring it, but you just can't wear it outside of the house here.
Just here, people are like, you're born with black and gold in your blood. Well, where I'm from, you're born a Red Sox fan and you're born a Patriots fan. It's how it is. And I didn't think much of it until one day I had to go home for an emergency. And I was just like bumming around the house cleaning and had yoga pants and a Patriot shirt on. And I had to like emergently go get a rental car and drive to New England because my mother was in the hospital. And I had told the rental car company this, and I get there and the guy's like giving me shit about my Patriots gear. I've got tears strolling down my face because my mother's in the hospital and he's dogging me because I have a Patriots jersey on. I was like, yeah, I had some not nice words come out of my mouth. But yeah.
But how about you guys? How about congratulations first and foremost for here? Wait, congratulations!
Oh, listen to that.
Right.
We couldn't even believe it because just being nominated, we were like, "Oh, we're nominated." That's more than we ever expected. Then we actually won. I was like, "What the fuck just happened?" I mean, I couldn't believe it.
The funny thing was the day before, Tony and I think Dustin and I were talking, and we were all three like, okay, so we didn't get it because if we would have won, they would have told us right before it was announced. So, no big. It was great being nominated. And then the next night at like, what was it, 10:30?
Yeah.
Everybody's cell phones are going off. It's like, oh my God, you got to get on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Well, and that's that's kind of what we wanted. And I listened to your show the other day where you guys were talking about, and I appreciate that you dig where that comes from, because a bunch of years ago, like without any education or anything, we started this magazine just because we're motorcycle people, and I can tell that's the same place that you guys do this from, and I wanted to always have a magazine that was like, the cover says by bikers for bikers. It's by people for people, regular blue collar working people. And I wanted, when we finally set down the tenet of having, an annual award deal with the magazine, and I wanted people to be responsible for that. I wasn't giving away the responsibility, but I wanted the people to actually have a voice, because so much of this industry is driven by marketing dollars and, and popularity and shit like that. I just wanted to have this thing that really lets people express how they're feeling about things. And it was awesome that apparently that was conveyed to you guys. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Thank you for doing that and having an award and putting this type of thing out there for the industry, because I think that one of the things that I even talked to the guys at S&S at Mama Tried in December, and I said to those guys at that event in the beginning of December, I said, there's no way that that we're gonna win this award. I said everybody in our category is connected to the industry. S&S is in the industry. Jace paints bikes for people in the industry, and all the stuff that Jason is doing. And I said there's no way. But I was blown away, even because like how we heard the announcement. Both times we heard from fans, and it was both like awesome. Somebody DM'd us and said, "Hey, you guys got nominated, congratulations." And we were like, nominated for what? And then they sent all the links and everything to us, and we're like, oh, this is amazing. And we were just so pumped about that. And it was the exact same thing. I mean, it's 10:30 at night. I was sitting there and I got this DM, and I looked, and all it said was congratulations on the win. And it was from somebody that went to an event that we had. Yep. We hosted an event called the Midwest Moto Meetup in 2019, and he had come to that event and had been following us since then. And he's the one that DM'd us at 10:30 at night and said, congratulations on the win. And I was like, what did we win? it was so far removed from, just out of my mind. And so it was, an honor for us to have been nominated, like we said, and the group of people was amazing. And then the fact that we won was again certainly humbling, because we are just a bunch of assholes that get together and talk about motorcycles because we love them, and people, and it's resonated with people, and we try not to take ourselves too seriously too. So
that's awesome. The thing. I heard you say that on a couple of your shows, and that's the thing that's really important about this. Like, especially in the new media release category, for me, for what we do, this is a really important category, because how we communicate to each other and how we group together and decide, what's cool, what's going on, alert each other of the changes, that defines who we are as a culture and the evolution of our culture. But when the accolades come directly from everybody that's just in that community, that's the most important thing, because a lot of times as the industry, and I'm not saying anything bad, Jason's podcast absolutely kicks ass. The stuff that they're doing with performance times at S&S, I couldn't be happier that more people are starting to get involved in this technology, because it does give the average person a clear-cut view, a perspective inside of this thing, and let them know that there's real people behind us. But especially in regards to Five Dirty Bikers, because you guys are regular off the street people. You know what I mean? So having that voice and having that ring true, that's one of the most important things for our industry, because it keeps us grounded. It's the thing that will keep us forever immune to the whims of popular culture.
Yeah, well said. And we've always wanted it to be, and hopefully we're conveying it. We try to that. We kind of had shaped the podcast like we are just five people having a conversation, and if you walked into a bar and sat at our table, that's what we want it to be like. You happened into this conversation that we're having, and you get to join in on it, and that's kind of the premise of how we how we structured it. And then, obviously we have topics that we talk about and obviously by everything else you've been able to listen to, we interject a significant amount of humor into it. And so
because I couldn't see the video, which one of you is the one that, like, out of the conversation every once in a while, you just hear somebody go, "Man, fuck Indian."
That's me.
That's Tony.
Tony.
I get to put a face with the name now. But that's really important. I mean, because this is the reason. We've fooled ourselves for so long with motorcycle media that those conversations actually didn't happen because they didn't have a place at the, official tables. It was improper to have that kind of conversation go on. But those conversations are really happening. They're happening in bars. They're happening in people's garages all the time. And that public opinion that's out there, you're not going to change that just because it's bad for your pocketbook. It
Right.
is what it is. And that acknowledgement is good and it's refreshing. And I think it's one of the things that as motorcycle media as a whole, we need to have a little bit more of to be able to move this thing forward. And that's why when, things like Jace's podcast, sometimes they get a little deep in the bottle and that his podcast gets buck wild, but those are the conversations that really go on too. That's how it happens,
Yeah,
It is. I think Ruroc will never have anything to do with it.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
No.
Not a chance in hell.
So let's talk about Cycle Source magazine a little bit. You guys started this back in 97?
Yeah.
As a free local newsprint magazine.
But what I'm curious about though is earlier Chris said he was working at a titty bar when he came up with the idea of doing the magazine. I'd like to hear that story. How did you start the magazine from the titty bar experience?
Listen, it's so biker, like in the traditional sense of the word biker. I was bouncing at a titty bar, and a buddy of mine was getting ready to do a 2-year bit for a gun charge. Right, he was a previously convicted felon, and he had a shotgun behind his counter for some bullshit that went on in his shop. So he's getting ready to do this 2-year bit. I bought the whole shop off him for $5,000, like all the parts and accessories and everything. Took over the lease on the building, and I start running this shop. So I would run the shop from 9 o'clock in the morning until about 5 at night. My buddy, who needed a place to live, it just like, when I hear myself say this shit, I don't know how we ever did this. He needed a place to live. His old lady threw him out. So I said, look, you can stay in the back of the shop. When I leave at 5 o'clock, run the shop till 9. That pays your rent. So he signed on to that. I would go out to the titty bar and I'd work till 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd make the hour commute back home. And we were doing this over and over. Well, he goes to Daytona and comes back with a free publication. At the time, there wasn't Thunder Roads yet. There wasn't, Full Throttles, like none of the branded, that across the country. It was individual publications had just started popping up. And there was one out of Florida called Florida Action Biker. And he had brought it home with me to show me something. It was a mobile service solution that these guys had this trailer outfitted that if your bike broke down, you called them, they came out with a trailer, they fixed your bike right on the spot, and you went back to your business. And while we're looking through it, he's like, dude, we need to do this mobile service thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, we need to do this magazine, because I appreciated so much, like you guys were saying, I'm from a part of the country right in the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio, where like this is a large cluster of active motorcycling. Like this is where a lot of it came from. A lot of the riding, the part sales and everything depends a lot on all the way through the Rust Belt. The rise and fall of the part sales go based on our seasonality. Well, I didn't feel like, as good as I loved a bunch of the national magazines, but there was nothing really showing our regional difference, like what it was like to be a motorcycle rider here in the tri-state area. So we borrowed a computer from one of the strippers. Like we set up a little room in the
Tell
back.
them what kind of camera you use.
I still have some of them here.
Webcam, right?
No, the old, remember when there were still such a things as photo huts and photo development centers, and they had little throwaway cameras. So we would go out and take all our pictures. We would do the feature bike and everything with that, and then take it in, have them developed, and we'd have the photos scanned in. And we just thought we were hot shit because, hey, we got into all the parties for free. We got to take pictures of chicks on motorcycles. It was pretty cool. Everything was going good. And that first issue was supposed to be February of 97, but we went out and sold all the ads to print the first issue. And we were printing like a massive, 1,500 copies or something, and sat down and realized that none of us could use a computer. So we had to put the whole first issue off. We went to our buddies that ran this little magazine called the Go-Go magazine. It was a free magazine for strip clubs. And they taught us a little bit about, at the time it was PageMaker and Photoshop. And a month later we came out with our first issue.
Did you expect it to like continue on? Because I know like these guys, when I joined their team, they said they kind of started it and didn't ever expect it to go as long as it has.
No, and I mean that's the best thing about it. Like I wanted, the first cover was my shovelhead and my stripper girlfriend at the time. So if that was all we had done, I would have been pretty good with it. But for some reason, motorcycling is the greatest thing. I say this thing all the time that motorcycling saved my life, because I was headed down a really bad road. And I found my way to motorcycle people, and I learned the most amazing things from people that were outcasts for regular society. I learned values and respect for myself, and how to take care of myself, and how to keep my word. And, and at the same time, when I finally got to this crossroads, it was motorcycle people that, even though I was bad at spelling, I was horrible at graphic design, that our pictures, that first issue, when you do newsprint, there's a thing called dot gain. And you have to set up a grayscale and all this with your images. Well, I didn't know anything about that. So our first issue, our pictures were black or white. Like there was no shades of gray. So like my bald-headed buddy did the first tech article, and he looked like powder doing something to a motorcycle.
Damn, that boy's pale.
Something's wrong with this.
Motorcycle people, like they can see real passion, and they assign a value to it. And, they just kept encouraging me, man. And we come from a really good part of the country where in a 100-mile radius at the time, there were 17 Harley dealers and 34 aftermarket shops, so we had a really good bed of content and support, and, and it people just kept believing in me along the way, and this one the most.
That's good. Let me ask you, Chris, do you have a copy of the original?
Yes, I do. I should have had this ready. I apologize.
I'll tell you what, we're all going to have to bump up our audio after this, because Chris is fucking killing us. We're all going to sound like fucking Pee Wee Herman.
It's the Howard Stern show with Chris Callen.
He's putting Howard Stern to shame.
Yeah.
What he doesn't tell you is that because he is so humble, not only did he use a borrowed computer and a throwaway camera, but you dropped out of high school in 10th grade.
Yeah. While I still knew everything.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's,
Look at that.
Wow,
There it
check it
is.
out.
Look at that.
And there, let me see if I can find the powder picture. But yeah, pictures, black or white. Just
Check that out.
no gray.
And like he used to have to lay all this out on these big boards, and
Yeah.
there was no.
There's powder doing our tech tip.
There is not an ounce of pigment in that man's skin.
That's right.
Yep. It was so bad. I couldn't believe they let us do a second issue. I couldn't believe it.
Well, it's like us with our first podcast. I mean, we don't claim it, but we do, because you got to look back and see where you were and then see where you are now, and just say like, hey, we put a lot of time and effort into this. And like you guys, like I read not this is the issue with the nominations in it. When I went and picked it up, the new one hadn't hit newsstands yet. I was really hoping it would, but I'm glad I'm getting both. But this magazine is very well laid out. There's great photos in it, great articles, and there's one in particular that I need to bring up to Mr. Tony, because he would appreciate it.
Don't bring me into this.
Well, I did find that article that I read that I wanted to share, especially with Mr. Tony, because this reflects onto him too. Now,
Don't bring me
Tony,
into this shit.
hold on, dude. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Tony is notorious for keeping his bike look showroom or better clean, right?
Hey man, the shit has to be tight. You can't show up on a dirty ride. I'm just saying.
So respect for the old days that you wrote. Yeah. I read the whole article, and you had this guy teach you, not only to keep your bike clean, but why.
Yeah.
So what we find out is it's not only going to keep you safe, because when you're cleaning that bike, you could find if there's something wrong with it.
Yep.
But
loose stuff.
Yeah. But not only that, but you keep the people that you ride with safe too, knowing that your shit's tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, and a lot of that, man, you know, even the bike games, you know, everybody likes to play the bike games, the bite, the weenie, the barrel roll, the slow race. When we hold these events, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you realize where this comes from, right? Like this was a readiness check all the way back in the day of AMA road runs and AMA motorcycle clubs. This was a way to make sure that you qualified to ride with the group. If you could handle your machine, you could navigate through things. You could do things with it. It was proof that you were road ready. You were ready to be with the group, you know? And I mean, even in that article, I think I talked about what the old guy went on to tell me was even the fact that you keep your motorcycle clean, you keep your clothing clean, yourself clean. It promotes an air of self-respect, that you have respect for yourself. You're going to have respect for the group. You're going to have respect for other people's things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You show up like a dirt ball. You don't have respect for yourself. There's little chance you're going to have respect for anybody else.
So see, all four of you all can kiss my ass.
Yeah, as long as it's clean, Tony. As long as it's clean, brother.
I'm not gonna lie, my motorcycle is like never clean. I'm horrible about washing it.
Well, you're not too far from Tony in Lexington. He'll have to give you a crash course.
Yeah, I'll just keep showing up to his house, and he'll be so aggravated by it. I'll just get a clean bike.
When Dustin came and visited, I mean, I was out in the garage cleaning his shit. I was like, this is terrible, dude.
Hey.
Can't ride this. Man, fuck TikTok.
Yeah. I don't know, though, man. If you still got titty bar connections, they could explode on TikTok.
Man. You come up out of there 45 minutes later, no better than you were when you went in. 45 minutes is gone.
I refuse to install it.
No TikTok here.
I'm just going to let it settle. I'm going to let it simmer for a little bit. Based on my Snapchat activity, I'm going to see how TikTok plays out for a minute.
I think
we had a bike builder on. She goes by Hailerization on Instagram, and she's from Canada, and her stuff is all TikTok. And she actually described a part on a motorcycle. She called it the Lorena Bobbitt because it was a part that cut all men's dicks off because it made all men cry. And we had to have her on once, and we found her through TikTok. And
you found her through TikTok.
I was going to say, don't pull us all down that TikTok.
Don't pull us down that TikTok. I'd rather slam my nuts in the car door than look at TikTok.
And she said, this is what she told us. She goes, TikTok's algorithm is so good that she said, TikTok knows what you hate watch. And I was like, what's hate watching? She goes, you know all that shit that you watch and you don't want to claim that you watch it. And I go, oh, you mean like all those dance videos? And she goes, exactly. Yeah. She goes, I have this friend of ours. She's like, he's the biggest like prison biker you'll ever see in your entire life. And he'll go, hey, look at my TikTok feed and tell me how come I get all these dance videos on here. And she goes, because that's what you're watching all the time. He goes, I don't watch these fucking dance videos. And she goes, oh, you do. You hate watch these videos, and TikTok knows it.
You can't lie to the algorithm, baby. You can't do it.
That's right.
I'm just wondering how
much time.
I'm wondering if this app like records your facial expressions, and there's somebody like 24/7 just watching you all day. Right. Well, they like that one. I saw the eyebrows go up. Yeah, send some more of that shit over.
Yep. We're gonna send them more of those dance videos. They like that.
Yeah, fuck TikTok.
Did Kim Moto do one on TikTok?
Like, honestly, kudos for her too. And that's the same thing that we're talking about having the passion for motorcycles. But she didn't know anything about graphic arts, didn't know anything about social media, none of the,
No, I ran a giant campground in Sturgis, and I ran bars in New Hampshire and Florida. Like, that's what I did. And then I met this one that did not have a big enough warning label.
I don't think any of us do.
Oh no, you have no. I should have known. I should have known because we were friends for a long time before we got together, and the shit he would do at my bar was ridiculous. Like, how we're even friends, let alone married, is amazing.
Our first interaction, she threw me out of Sturgis.
I threw you off the campground.
Pretty much. Back in the day, we did this thing called the Limpnicki lot, and the Limpnicki lot was buck wild. It was when I was still a young man. Guys like Pat Patterson, Paul from Bare Knuckle Choppers, like we all grouped together and we made this thing. We'd set up together, 30 of us, 30 different shops, that were all young, building, crazy choppers and bobbers. And it was all low rent. And I mean, a hell of a lot of fun, but never really made sense for anything more than the activities. So somehow the Broken Spoke gets convinced that having us there is a good thing.
Because you can sell ice to Mexico.
So
like, seriously.
We're all there, 30 different builders, all there.
This is at the campground.
Friends
It's 600
and family.
acres in Sturgis with, like, the main bar is an airplane hangar. It's 30,000 square feet.
And their big claim to fame is you can drive through the bar. So we do
Park your
a lot.
motorcycle.
We're having mini bike races one night, and the mini bike races go down through the parking lot, around the back, through the bar, come out. There's a tight left-hand hairpin turn and go back down through the parking lot again. Well, everybody was getting really good at this point. Nobody was wrecking. The races were real tight. So I got off the one mini bike, and every time they came to the hairpin turn, I threw a hazard at them. The first time it was water.
Defense.
One or two of them fell down. Second time it was a bunch of ice. 2 or 3 more of them fell down. Next time it was gasoline. I lit it on fire as they came through.
Jesus, God damn.
Good for you.
It's a $2 million fine to have an open flame in Sturgis in a drought.
Yeah. Because when it's a drought in Sturgis, it's a drought. And 600 acres of straw.
She came
Well,
out.
that is information that would have been good beforehand.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd be stupid enough to light it on fire.
Well,
I probably would have done it too.
We're men.
you.
Like, you give us a gasoline and a match. What do you think we do with it? I mean,
And very little encouragement. One time they decided that they were gonna curb our excessive behavior by treating us like we were celebrities. So they gave us our own night.
This was not my idea.
Limp Nicky Let
Just for the
night.
record.
They told us get whatever band you want. We're going to give you guys the VIP area, and we're going to stock it with booze and all this. So we get
Nashville Pussy.
Nashville Pussy is the band.
That's solid
And
band.
They put they put us in the VIP
Which
area.
overlooks the stage.
It overlooks the stage, behind the stage. Well, underneath it is the band's green room. So about halfway through the night, we're up there. Everybody's drunk. There's fist fights. We dump over one of the beer coolers, and the band's clothing and equipment just gets ruined.
They're some of their instruments.
Oh yeah,
and
it was a complete shit show. And the next day, I literally got the speech from her and Jay Allen. They sat down. They said, Chris, it's not that we're upset with you. We're just disappointed.
The
not that.
Man, that's a kick in the nuts there. Just be pissed at me.
Yeah, that was the final straw. Like, he had already driven a tractor trailer through the bar.
I didn't drive.
I just sent it.
Big Ben drove. I went for support. He told me that he was doing this. And the funniest thing, I still remember the look on his face, because we came in hot into the doors, and he made a hard right-hand turn, and I knew he wasn't going to make the turn, and we slammed into like 100-year-old gas pump. The glass from it went up in the air, and there's
video on YouTube.
There was 60 people hanging off of this truck, and I was like, dude, let me get some of these people off the truck. And he looked at me. It was like the scene in a movie when everything gets quiet, and he looked over with this horrifying grimace. He goes, no, the chaos is part of it all. And he jacked that truck in reverse, smashed some more shit. And I was just like, wow.
So Heather, you still needed a label?
Oh, jeez. Well, he had he took a little bit. He stopped drinking. He took a little bit of a sabbatical, and got real serious with the business and the magazine. And we had remained friends for a long time. And I don't know. I don't know.
It's not as crazy as it used to be.
No, it's not. He's not as crazy. But I will say, I think part of the reason he is still here and still has Cycle Source and has launched another magazine is because he truly is not afraid to try new things. Like, he'll be like, oh, let's try this column. Let's try this show. And he gives everything he has, and he goes for it. And if it works, that's awesome. If not, he goes on to the next.
And my number one guiding rule is none of us are as cool as the motorcycle. I mean, that's the motorcycle is the star. So like, if you try something, it's not necessarily about you. It's about this community, all these people, all the stuff that we do, and the motorcycle is always going to be the star.
And and with this community, it's absolutely, the more real you are and the more honest you are, the more they embrace you. Like even a few years ago when my daughter and I first moved to Pennsylvania, 7 years ago, I think, I had always kept her very sheltered from what I do.
Has it only been 7 years?
Right? It was like a freaking lifetime. But anyway, I always kept her sheltered from everything I did at the Broken Spoke and that lifestyle and whatnot. But when we came here, she came out on the road with us to the events and to the rallies, and she worked our booth for us and she helped run bike shows. And so after her first season, he's like, why don't you write an article? And I'm like, what the hell do bikers want to hear from a 15-year-old for?
Yeah.
And she wrote an article about the motorcycle world from a teenager's perspective. And she wrote that column because it was so well received until she went to college.
Very cool.
Wow.
Like everybody awesome. Embraced her. And
she had fan mail.
Yeah, she would get fan mail and people wanted to know what.
Cool.
Yeah. And it's just, like I said, they're so welcoming and they embrace, as stereotypical hard-headed as they are, they actually are very open-minded and they embrace new ideas and new outlooks. So that was awesome from that point.